Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. 3 years ago, Ryan Carter's father died in the line of duty during a fire. The fire broke out in a shopping district where my family owned a chain restaurant. To honor his father's sacrifice, my family donated $1 million to them. His mother, devastated, fell ill and was hospitalized. By the time Ryan and I entered the same public high school, his family had nearly spent all the compensation and donations left behind by his father. When my mother found out that Ryan and I were in the same elite class, she wanted to donate another $1 million to his family. Ryan coldly refused, telling us not to insult him. Later, I came up with an idea. I deliberately placed last in the entrance exam, and then paid an exorbitant fee to hire Ryan as my tutor. This way, I could preserve his pride while giving him a legitimate reason to cut back on his part-time restaurant jobs, allowing him to spend more time taking care of his mother and focusing on his studies. But in my previous life, he ended up hating me for it. First, he believed that my constant tutoring sessions with him took away the time he could have spent with his childhood sweetheart, Lily Jensen. As a result, Lily ended up dating the school bully from a neighboring school. Second, he thought that my final exam score, which was 100 points higher than his, was a calculated insult. He believed that I had used him and made a fool of him. He thought that a bad student like me should never have outperformed him, let alone used it as an excuse to pursue him. He told me that he would never like me. He cursed me, calling me a manipulative, arrogant rich girl who would never find true love. Determined to prove himself, Ryan worked even harder and got into a top-tier graduate school, far beyond a regular college degree. By his 3rd year of grad school, he had secured angel investment and started a medical aesthetics company. His naturally handsome face gave him a unique advantage in the beauty industry, and he quickly made his first $10 million. Finally, he gathered the courage to find Lily, whom he had lost contact with for years. But by then, Lily was already pregnant with twins fathered by a 60-year-old tycoon. Compared to the businessman's vast wealth, Ryan's $10 million was insignificant. Enraged and humiliated, Ryan redirected all his hatred toward me. He invited me to his clinic under the pretense of offering me a cosmetic procedure. Then, without anyone noticing, he injected poison into my limbs. Later, he brushed off my death as a simple medical accident. My parents wanted to seek justice for me, but when they learned that the incident happened at Ryan's company, they hesitated out of respect for his late father, the heroic firefighter. They chose to believe his explanation. In fact, they even allowed him to help arrange my funeral. After the funeral, Ryan tricked my parents into investing even more money in his business. Then, smug with his revenge, he visited my grave. Standing there, he sneered and mocked me, warning me that if I had another in my life, I should stop pretending to be a saint and stop pitying him. He never needed my family's charity or our money. He never wanted to tutor me in exchange for my family's wealth. My arrogance was what killed me, and he felt no guilt whatsoever. Perhaps the heavens pitied my unjust death, because somehow I was given a second chance. This time, I would never hide my true abilities or compromise myself for a man like him. I would never let him earn a single penny from my family, and I would never allow him to hurt me again. Holding my abysmal sophomore year report card, I rushed home. Seeing my much younger-looking parents again, I felt like I had stepped into another world. My mother took my report card, popped an orange slice into my mouth, and said meaningfully, "Our little yoga princess is back. Eat more vitamin C to boost your immunity, and take a fish oil pill after. Don't forget you were the city's top scorer in the middle school entrance exam. Don't get too carried away playing the bad student." Swallowing the orange along with my tears, I firmly replied, "From now on, Ryan Carter won't be coming over to tutor me anymore. Next time, I won't deliberately score at the bottom of the class. Also, if he tries to work at any of our restaurants again, please tell the manager to reject him." My mom looked shocked and exchanged glances with my dad. In my previous life, even though my parents reluctantly agreed to my plan of failing on purpose to help Ryan, it left them feeling ashamed for a long time. A girl who had to fail the city's entrance exam suddenly became the worst student in her elite public high school. For 2 whole years, from freshman to sophomore year, I was the bottom-ranked student in the advanced class. Rumors spread like wildfire. People said my middle school scores must have been faked, that I had been exposed after entering public school, that a family of business people always scheming and calculating could never produce a truly studious child. They claimed that hiring a top 10 ranked school prince as a tutor was just an excuse to get close to him, that we were exchanging resources to improve our family's gene pool. After all, society loves pairing beautiful women with rich men, or failing that, plain-looking girls with handsome guys in forced couples. It was bad for both the eyes and mental health. Rumors like that never stopped reaching my family's ears, but since we had already decided to support Ryan, my parents could only endure it. And well, I got too deep into the act. I even started liking him. Honestly, as a teenage girl, wasn't it normal to be drawn to a good-looking guy? On top of that, I idolized him as the son of a fallen hero. I had read too many CEO romance novels, and being around him and his cold demeanor every day made me fall for him almost irrationally. Naturally, my mom grew worried and constantly tried to warn me, but I promised her that I wouldn't confess to him until after the college entrance exams. I swallowed back my tears, and with unwavering determination, I declared, "I'm not joking." I went back to my study to review on my own. Just as I finished speaking, the doorbell rang. Aunt Linda, our housekeeper, led Ryan Carter inside. His cold expression remained unchanged. Seeing his 18-year-old face again, I felt nothing but disgust, but I swallowed it down and forced a smile. "Tutoring a rich girl like me must be quite humiliating for you, huh? You can leave now, but you'll still get paid for today. If you don't want to take money from my family, feel free to refuse. Starting tomorrow, you don't have to come anymore. My house may be big, but we won't be some charity case clinging to someone who clearly doesn't want to be here." The pain of the poison spreading through my organs in my past life resurfaced in my nightmares that night. I woke up drenched in cold sweat, screaming. My mom rushed into my room alarmed. "Olivia, what's wrong?" she asked, wiping the sweat off my forehead. "It's just a dream," I soothed. "You're safe. Dad and I are here to protect you." I looked up at her worried face and hugged her tightly. "Mom, can you make sure that none of the restaurants we own or work with hire Ryan Carter? Not even for washing dishes or bussing tables. I don't want him to have any way of making money from us." She looked puzzled. "Olivia, it's only been a day. Why have you suddenly changed so much toward Ryan? Yesterday evening when he left our house, he looked pretty strange too. Did something happen between you two?" I couldn't tell her the truth about my rebirth. It would only scare her. So instead, I explained, "Ryan has made it very clear that he doesn't want to earn money from our family. When you offered his family $1 million donation, he turned it down without hesitation. That's just who he is." My mom nodded in understanding but added, "If none of our chain restaurants hire him, he'll probably end up at the Yao family's restaurant instead. That place has terrible reviews, but it's still thriving because they cut corners on everything, including their employees." I smiled. That's exactly what I want. My revenge plan was clear. First, I needed to make Ryan realize just how powerless he really was. Then I would make his life so miserable that he wished he were dead. Finally, I would watch as he crumbled completely. Sure enough, a week later, Ryan started working at Super Diner. At first, he didn't care that the restaurants he had previously worked at all turned him away. After all, Lily Jensen wasn't working at those places anymore either. Ryan had followed Lily to Super Diner, even though the pay was $10 less per hour than other restaurants. He didn't mind. Being with Lily was the most important thing. Every afternoon after school, Ryan and Lily would meet at the crosswalk in front of campus, hold hands while sharing a single corn on the cob, then take the bus together to work, where they washed dishes and waited tables. His mother's hospital bills had been barely covered by the tutoring money I paid him, which was 5 times the normal rate, but hospital stays burn. Through money fast within a month, his measly $15.30 per hour salary was gone. Even after working 90 grueling hours that month, he only made $1,377, barely enough to cover a single day of his mother's medical expenses. Desperate, he begged the hospital to delay payment for another week while he found a way to make up the difference. His so-called solution was simple: work even more hours. Either he would take more night shifts or start skipping school to work. But his homeroom teacher quickly noticed something was wrong. Pulling Ryan aside to his office, he asked if there was any way the school could help. Under pressure, Ryan finally admitted that his family was struggling financially and that his mother's condition required expensive hospital treatment. The teacher sympathized. After all, Ryan was one of the top 10 students in the grade, a promising talent that shouldn't be wasted. Out of his own pocket, the teacher took out $1,000 and gave it to Ryan, then promised to organize a school-wide donation drive for him. Ryan hesitated for a moment, a flicker of reluctance on his face, but reality left him no choice. He accepted. During the next study hall session, the donation QR code was passed from desk to desk until it reached me and my seatmate, Lisa Snow. Lisa generously scanned the code and donated $200. "This is all I can afford," she said. "That's my entire breakfast and milk tea budget for the month." "Olivia, you're going to donate more than me, right? You can't make me look bad." I didn't stop writing my test paper and didn't even bother to look up. "I'm not donating," I replied flatly. Lisa nearly choked. "Weren't you the one who privately hired Ryan Carter for high-priced tutoring? Technically, that makes him half your teacher. Besides, your family is pretty rich and kind. You know, just like that movie Parasite said, rich people have the time and luxury to be kind." Lisa suddenly paused, realizing what she had just said. "Oh no, I'm talking nonsense. Sorry, I didn't mean to guilt trip you. It's just you've been acting kind of weird lately, and I got curious." I put my pen down, passed the QR code to the next row, and replied calmly, "People can't be too kind, otherwise, they'll turn into a saint that everyone hates. When people receiving aid start resenting their benefactors, that's the worst outcome. If I donate to Ryan, he might just end up seeing us rich people as his lifelong enemies." Lisa snorted with laughter. I leaned in closer and whispered, "I need to protect myself. Seriously, 2 years ago, my mom wanted to donate $1 million to Ryan's family, and he flat out refused. He saw it as an insult to his dignity. I used to naively think I was helping him, but I never once considered whether he actually wanted my help. That was my mistake. So now I've decided to tighten my purse strings and stop playing the saint." With that, I went back to my test paper. Lisa, still sipping on her milk tea, rested her chin on her hand, lost in thought for a long time. During the second homeroom period, our teacher tallied up the donation funds, $1,498 in total. He cleared his throat and then, in an oddly sarcastic tone, said, "Thanks to everyone's generosity, Ryan Carter will be able to get through this tough time." Most of the class contributed. You are all such kind-hearted students, though some people who should have donated didn't. At that moment, a chilling glare shot toward me from the front rows by the wall. Oh, it was our class's so-called victim, Ryan Carter. I met his gaze head-on, waiting for him to say something, but just as suddenly, he looked away, swallowing his words. I let it slide for now. There was no point in wasting my energy on people who couldn't even confront me directly. Instead, I packed my bag and left the moment the bell rang, heading straight home. That night, I had a well-balanced dinner, reviewed some material, then took a hot shower before going to bed early. I needed to be well-rested for tomorrow's finals. A clear mind was essential for crushing exams. It was time to reclaim my rightful place at the top. A week later, the results were out. I had jumped from the bottom of the rankings to the top 30 in the entire grade, placing in the top 5 of my class. Meanwhile, Ryan, who had been in the top 10 for 2 years straight, had plummeted to rank 100. The entire class was in an uproar. No way. Olivia Woods, the perpetual last-place student, actually made it into the top 30? Are we dreaming? This is insane. She improved by 321 points. She had to be cheating, right? But wasn't she the city's top scorer in the middle school entrance exams? Maybe she just finally adapted to high school. Oh, come on. That whole top scorer thing was probably bought. Money can make anything happen. And wasn't Ryan tutoring her this whole time? Wait a second, then why did Ryan's score drop so much? Did they switch test papers or something? His family really needs money right now. I strongly suggest we investigate Olivia Wood's exam results. If she's really that good, She can take the test again and prove it. Lisa, my desk mate, immediately spoke up in my defense. Olivia didn't cheat. I've seen her practice at least 2 full mock exams every single day for the past 2 months. Our homeroom teacher, already displeased with me for not donating to Ryan, heard the gossip and promptly called me to the office. Did you cheat? He asked. I answered flatly no. He pressed on. Then how do you explain your sudden jump in scores? You scored higher than Ryan Carter, who was supposed to be tutoring you. If you weren't donating money, were you secretly paying him for test answers? You rich girls always love showing off, don't you? I laughed. And why exactly should I have to prove myself? If someone has doubts, they should be the ones to provide evidence. You're an educator, someone who's been teaching for years. I used to think you were a responsible teacher, but now I see you just treat people differently based on their wealth. Don't make things harder for yourself, and maybe don't be so bitter toward the rich after all. Wealth allows people to focus on learning instead of just surviving. If rich people accumulate wealth, it's either because they've worked several times harder than others, or because they've used their brains and strategies to get there. That takes knowledge too. Don't assume all rich people are brainless. The homeroom teacher was completely speechless at my words. He stammered. You Olivia Woods, you have no manners at all, no respect for your teachers. I laughed even louder. There was no longer any need to waste my breath on him. I turned to leave the office but stopped at the door to add. If you want respect, start by respecting others. Don't wave your little authority around like it means something, acting all high and mighty while throwing accusations at others. What a joke. The moment I stepped back into the classroom, Ryan Carter walked over to my desk. Can we talk for a minute outside? He asked. This was the first time since my rebirth that he had approached me on his own, but his expression was still as condescending as ever. The memory of him injecting poison into my veins in my past life flashed in my mind, sending an uncontrollable shiver down my spine. Suppressing the overwhelming hatred, I rolled my eyes at him. If you've got something to say it here. His lips curled into a sneer. What exactly did you offer my mom? She wants to see you. She asked you to visit her at the hospital, he emphasized coldly. Listen carefully, I said. My mom wants to see you. That doesn't mean I accept you. There will never be anything between us, so stop playing your little push and pull game. What a load of garbage. Just like his father's righteousness. Without a second thought, I stood up and slapped him across the face. Can you not spew nonsense for once in your life? I snapped. What game am I playing? I simply stopped paying you for tutoring because I can score higher than you all on my own. So why would I waste my money on your miserable, arrogant face? You and I? Impossible. Did I ever pursue you? Did I ever confess to you? Did you ever receive a love letter from me? Did I force you to be with me? No. Then why are you acting so self-important? Also, get this straight right now. You are the one asking me for a favor, so maybe, just maybe, act like someone who needs help instead of burning through whatever goodwill your father left behind. Ryan's face turned bright red, first with disbelief, then with anger. He clenched his jaw and growled. Go if you want. I don't care. I delivered the message. I have better things to do than waste time here. He stormed off in frustration. Watching his retreating figure, I couldn't help but shout after him. Damn you, Ryan Carter. You act like a victim but always want a profit. You're nothing but a selfish bastard. Lisa, who had been sipping on her milk tea, nearly choked. She quickly grabbed my wrist and said, Olivia, stop. Don't be so mad. It's not good for your health. I smirked. Not cursing this jerk out would be worse for my health, but I knew. I was just trying to calm down. I nodded in appreciation and then suggested, let's go celebrate with hot pot. We both did great on our exams. Lisa had improved from the top 50 to the top 30 in the grade, and ranked in the top 10 of our class. Her face instantly lit up. She slammed her milk tea on the desk, stuffed her books into her bag at lightning speed, and dragged me out of the classroom. As we strolled past nosy classmates whispering about the drama, we walked out of school with our heads high, completely unbothered. At the hot pot restaurant, the delicious aroma filled the air. We stuffed our mouths with all the food we had been craving: fatty beef, tripe, lotus root, and meatballs. Then, out of nowhere, Lisa pulled out 2 large cups of milk tea, handing one to me. "Olivia, let's toast," she grinned. I happily raised my cup and made the first toast to making it into the top 30 and aiming for the top 3 in next year's college entrance exams. Lisa followed up by saying we should cut out junk food, but I refused to quit milk tea. I laughed and added that I was quitting my savior complex and finally being true to myself. Our cups clinked together, and in unison, we cheered to a bright future. A week later, my mom took me to the city hospital for a checkup. Just as we walked in, I spotted Ryan Carter. He was there to pick up his mother, but she wasn't discharged because her condition had gotten even worse. Ryan Carter's mother had suffered central nervous system damage due to extreme grief, which led to an acute cerebral hemorrhage. Now her condition had worsened into chronic hemiplegia. If she remained in the hospital, she would need a caregiver for daily assistance and rehabilitation therapy. The last time, aside from the school donations, Ryan had also managed to get a small donation from a low-profile charity platform. But after paying off previous debts, the money ran out in less than 2 weeks. His family was completely out of options. They attempted another crowdfunding campaign, but this time very few people donated. Sometimes people's kindness runs out. When Mrs. Carter saw me and my mom, she greeted us weakly, her hands trembling, and thanked us. She said she knew our family had donated to them before and had taken care of Ryan. The last time she wanted to see me at the hospital, it was simply to thank me in person. My heart softened. I couldn't understand how such a reasonable and kind woman had raised someone as arrogant and self-righteous as Ryan Carter. "But my son Ryan doesn't want to keep begging for donations to pay for my treatment," she continued. "I understand him. Men have their pride. I'll just keep exercising at home in my wheelchair, and when he comes home from school or work, he can help me with physical therapy. I should recover slowly over time." Hearing this, my mother and I exchanged a glance. There was nothing more we could do but respect their decision and wish them well. Ryan, standing beside his mother, shoved past me and my mom. "Is right." Hands still covered in band-aids, he wheeled his mother toward the bus stop in the freezing wind. Is this guy insane? Did he think I was responsible for the misery he was suffering at Super Diner? If anyone had the right to hold a grudge, it should be me. All I did was make him face reality, and I hadn't even started truly making his life hell yet. I immediately called the restaurant manager to check in on the information my family's business had been gathering about Super Diner. In the restaurant industry, every major competitor had their own undercover informants. It was just part of the game. From what I learned, Ryan had been through absolute hell at Super Diner these past few weeks. First, his promised $3,500 in wages had been withheld because he accidentally broke a few plates. Normally, those plates weren't worth much, but at a shady restaurant like Super Diner, employees had to pay triple the cost for damages. Ryan had even tried to buy replacement plates himself, but the manager refused, claiming that all of their dishware was custom-made and couldn't be substituted. For someone as prideful as Ryan, being exploited like this must have been unbearable. Frustrated, he had tried to get Lily Jensen to quit with him and go back to their old restaurant job, but Lily refused. Her washing dishes, wiping tables, and serving food was exhausting, no matter where they worked. Recently, a scandal had exposed that Super Diner was selling fake high-end dishes to cover it up. The owner came up with a gimmick, setting up a glass display at the entrance where customers could watch the famous signature dish, spicy stir-fried pork, being freshly prepared. Of course, the cooking itself was staged. The person inside the display only had to slice meat and chop chili peppers. And who was the best at chopping chili peppers? A pretty employee. Lily had decent looks, and she was tired of running around taking orders and getting bossed around by customers. Sitting inside a glass booth and cutting vegetables was the easiest job she could ask for, so naturally, she wasn't interested in going back to their old restaurant. Besides, she had already burned bridges with the manager and staff there. Why go back just to be mocked? Ryan, unwilling to accept defeat, swallowed his pride and went back to their old restaurant alone to ask for his job back. But after running to 7 or 8 different places where he had worked since middle school, he was rejected at every single one. This time, the managers didn't even bother making excuses about overstaffing. Instead, they gave him the real reason. The Woods family made it clear. We are not allowed to let you earn a single cent from them, not even if it's hard labor. Panicking, Ryan demanded. But aren't you part of Chen's restaurant group? What does that have to do with the Woods family? The manager replied with a smirk. Sorry, Olivia Woods is our major shareholder. And just like that, Ryan had no choice but to crawl back to Super Diner, swallowing every ounce of pride. His pride kept him washing dishes carefully, carrying trays, and cleaning tables at full speed just so he could make it to the night shift, where an extra $20 was paid in overtime. Super Diner welcomed employees like him with open arms. As far as they were concerned, whether it was full-time workers or part-time hires, everyone was just cheap labor. If you wanted to work, fine. If you didn't, get lost. With the entire city's restaurant industry essentially monopolized by my family's business and Yao's chain, Ryan was completely trapped. A penny can bring even the proudest man to his knees. That's when he truly realized making money was much harder than he ever imagined. But what choice did he have? He could only keep throwing himself into work. Even though his mother was discharged from the hospital, daily expenses still needed to be covered. Community welfare programs occasionally provided assistance, but Ryan's ego made him accept help only when he had no other option. He wanted to prove to Lily that his mother could rely on him, and that someday she could too. But all Lily did was sit inside that glass booth, slicing chili peppers, watching him struggle with a helpless expression. And just like that, 8 months passed. We had entered the final sprint toward college entrance exams. My grades had remained steadily in the top 3 of my class, and the top 10 in the entire grade. Meanwhile, Ryan Carter had fallen to the very bottom. Our homeroom teacher refused to believe it. He couldn't accept that his once prized student had become a failing student. In his eyes, high school was the time when boys' academic abilities shined the most. He often liked to remind us that the top scorers of the past 2 years were both male students. But whether the top scorers were male or female, they all had one thing in common. They studied, reviewed, practiced, memorized, and sat for exams. Over the past 8 months, Ryan had skipped nearly 200 classes and missed over 100 practice tests. With that much lost time and effort, wasn't it only natural that he ended up at the bottom? Still, our teacher kept sighing in regret over Ryan's downfall, and even suggested that he repeat a year. Ryan refused, keeping his tone eerily calm. He said, "My mom fell outside near our house last month. By the time I got home from my night shift, she was already gone. From now on, I can finally focus more on myself and my studies." Our teacher looked at him, stunned. Ryan's once sharp, handsome face had become hollow and sunken, his skin covered in acne. The teacher's heart ached for him and encouraged him to study hard, reminding him that there was still time to catch up before the exams. Ryan nodded viciously, his expression filled with unhinged determination, as if he were ready to rip someone apart. But when the exam results came out, reality hit him and our homeroom teacher like a ton of bricks. In this lifetime, I scored 300 points higher than Ryan Carter, just like we had toasted at our hot pot celebration. ISA and I both placed in the top 3 of our grade. Lisa ranked first in math while I was the highest scorer in literature. The overall top scorer also happened to be a girl. Lisa and I wasted no time submitting our college applications. We both secured spots at the nation's top universities. As for Ryan, his score was only high enough to qualify for a third-rate vocational college. Perfect. Now not only could he continue washing dishes alongside Lily Jensen, but they could also attend the same vocational school together. If they wanted, they could even sell roasted sweet potatoes by the roadside after graduation. But the problem was Lily didn't want that. The moment she received her acceptance letter from a vocational school, she made a new plan. She decided to move to Hong Kong to work instead. "Studying is useless for girls," she said. "Might as well go to Hong Kong while I'm still young and try my luck as a model. If I make enough money, I can join a socialite training program. Maybe I'll even get a chance to marry some third-tier celebrity." She had completely given up on Ryan Carter. In our past life, Ryan had used the overpriced tutoring fees from my family to buy her all sorts of luxury gifts, but she had dumped him anyway, complaining that he never had enough time for her, and had instead run off to date the school bully. In this life, Ryan had plenty of time to spend with her, washing dishes and bussing tables side by side. But now that they were equal, she had no interest in sharing a corn cob with him anymore. Ryan couldn't give her money, and she didn't want to live a life where she could already see the ending. She wanted everything, but neither the Ryan from my past life nor the Ryan in this one could give it to her. So she laughed in his face and called him a pathetic, ugly fool. Not long after that, the fool got arrested. The reason? A neighbor called the police, reporting him for murdering his own mother. 3 months ago, Ryan had come home late from work and fed his bedridden mother some porridge. After she finished eating and lay down to rest, he had calmly placed a pillow over her face and suffocated her to death. Mrs. Carter had struggled desperately, using all the strength she had left to fight back, but Ryan ignored her, his expression ice cold. Only when she stopped breathing did he finally let go. An hour later, he carefully staged the scene, making it look as if she had fallen from her wheelchair. He spilled porridge all over the floor to make it look like an accident. Then, without any hesitation, he rushed out to work his night shift. The next morning, when he returned home, he confirmed that his mother's body was already stiff. Only then did he call 911. By the time emergency responders arrived, Mrs. Carter was long dead. The paramedic informed Ryan that since she was already deceased, it wasn't their jurisdiction. He would need to contact a funeral home instead. Just like that, Ryan successfully avoided an autopsy with his family's financial situation and his mother's medical history. It wasn't hard to believe that she had simply fallen to her death. But I remembered, ever since my rebirth, I never once forgot about my revenge against Ryan Carter. I merely let him recognize the reality of his situation first, and soon enough his true vicious nature revealed itself. Killing his own mother was entirely his choice. I had only arranged for people to keep an eye on him, followed his every move, and became his neighbor. Then I captured video evidence of his crime. Now even the third-rate vocational school he once looked down on was out of reach for him. In our past life, he claimed to despise wealthy families like mine, yet he shamelessly accepted the privileges and financial support my family provided. It was only because of that money that he had the freedom to focus on his studies after losing his father. It was also that money that allowed his mother to receive the best medical treatment available. With all that, he got into a prestigious university, and yet he still resented me for ruining his love life. What a joke. If he truly despised the benefits my family provided, why didn't he refuse them? After murdering me, he traveled to countless universities searching for a girl who resembled Lily Jensen by just the right amount, about 70% alike. When he finally found her, he pursued her relentlessly, using her as a substitute to fulfill the love story he believed he was entitled to. Maybe fate favors those who are both shameless and reckless. Even after he killed me, Ryan Carter had an endless stream of wealth and romance coming his way. Meanwhile, good people, no matter if they were rich or poor, healthy or sick, were always the ones being taken advantage of, always suffering unfairly. So my dear friends, let me remind you, being too kind is a mistake. The world may frown upon cruelty, but it rewards ruthlessness. That's why in this lifetime, I refuse to play the saint. And trust me, the best part of my revenge has only just begun. Now it was time for phase 2, making Ryan Carter wish he were dead. By September, as the golden leaves of autumn fell, Lisa and I were attending one of the top universities in Beijing. We spent our time in classes, participating in student organizations, and competing in debate tournaments. Meanwhile, Ryan Carter sat behind bars in the city's detention center, awaiting his trial. During his first hearing, he initially admitted to the crime, but then suddenly he retracted his confession. He refused to accept a life sentence. With tears streaming down his face, he claimed innocence. First, he insisted that the neighbor's video evidence had been doctored to frame him. Then he accused the police of coercing his confession through physical abuse. His statements were full of contradictions, and he kept changing his story. At one point, he even referenced a movie he had seen. In the film, he said a family member who had spent years caring for a sick relative finally smothered them with a pillow, and then took their own life. I thought about doing that, but I couldn't bring myself to. I worked nonstop, skipping school and working multiple jobs just to provide for my mom. How could I have killed her? How could I have thrown away my bright future? I may not be an outstanding person, but I am a good person. I can't even kill a chicken. But I won't lie, when I saw my mother was finally gone, I did feel relieved because I was just so tired. I know my mother felt relieved too. Patients suffer too, don't they? At least now she's reunited with my dad. The prosecution had two key pieces of evidence: witness testimony and video footage. But there was one problem. Ryan's mother had been cremated long ago, and her body was never autopsied. Without Ryan's confession, the case couldn't proceed to a conviction. The trial was put on hold for further review. Meanwhile, the internet exploded with debate. This guy is a textbook narcissist with antisocial personality disorder. He reminds me of that other notorious murderer. His excuses sound exactly the same. I went to high school with Ryan Carter. Honestly, it's such a waste. He used to be the top student, handsome, smart, and popular, but life was cruel to him. He came from a poor family, lost his dad, and had to take care of his sick mother. Fate ruined him. Oh, shut up. Being poor isn't an excuse for murder. By your logic, half the world's population should be forgiven for killing people. Exactly. Also, Ryan's family wasn't that helpless. After his father died, he and his mother received multiple donations and compensation payments. He just squandered it all. The real victim here is his mother, not him. Why is anyone even pitying this guy? He's an embarrassment. Imagine confessing to murder, and then flipping the script in court. If the court upholds his life sentence in the appeal, they might even increase his punishment for having a bad attitude. If this isn't a wrongful conviction, this trial is about to get very interesting. I smirked. Let the world watch. Not just for the internet entertainment, not just for my revenge, but also for the sake of my own mental and physical well-being. I couldn't allow Ryan Carter to escape justice with his lies. I wanted him to suffer, to experience pain worse than death. So I took action. I arranged for a payment to be made to the family of an inmate named Big Wong, a man serving a life sentence for a crime committed under duress. In return, he would make Ryan's life a living hell in prison. Prison had its own unspoken rules. New inmates were always asked what crime had landed them there: rapists, child abusers, those who hurt their own family members, and snitches. These were the lowest of the low, and the other inmates always made sure they suffered. Ryan, a man who had murdered his own mother, was already despised. Now, after retracting his confession during the trial, and trying to weasel his way out, he had made even more enemies. When Big Wong heard the details of Ryan's case, he was filled with rage. With no hope of ever leaving prison himself, Ryan began experiencing accidents during yard time once he was buried alive in dirt as a cruel joke. At night, he was regularly beaten to the point of bruises covering his entire body. At mealtime, his food would disappear within seconds, stolen by others before he could even get a bite. Whenever he tried to get more, it would be snatched away again. At first, he reported the abuse to the guards, but after every report, the beatings got worse. Day after day, week after week, it continued. By the time his second trial began, Ryan had been tortured for 68 days straight. When he was brought back to court, his mental defenses crumbled completely. Finally, he admitted to murdering his mother in a desperate attempt to negotiate. He pleaded, "If I have to serve life in prison, at least transfer me to a different facility." The judge responded sternly, "Given your previous retraction of your confession, which displayed an extremely poor attitude toward accepting responsibility, along with the extensive resources wasted due to your actions, the verdict may not remain life imprisonment." Ryan collapsed to the floor in horror and fainted on the spot. In November, Beijing saw its first snowfall of the season. Lisa and I had wanted to book tickets for a photo shoot inside the Forbidden City, but it was impossible. So many people had made reservations that by the time we tried, it was already sold out. Instead, we settled for watching the snowfall from across the street at a famous roast duck restaurant, sipping milk tea as we ate. We were halfway through our meal when the news broke. Ryan Carter's final verdict had been announced: death sentence suspended for 2 years. Before I could react, Lisa slammed her cup onto the table. "Are you kidding me? A suspended death sentence? That basically means he won't even die. Ryan Carter killed his own mother. How is this any different from that other infamous case of matricide?" What if they reduce his sentence again later? What kind of nonsense is this? The internet was outraged too. No way they're giving him leniency, because his father was a firefighter. What kind of logic is that? His mother was his father's legal wife. He murdered his own parent. He's a literal monster. Someone please think about public safety. If they don't execute Ryan Carter, it'll set a dangerous precedent. We'll see more and more copycat crimes like this. If the justice system fails, who the hell would even dare to have kids anymore? Not only will parents be abandoned in old age, but now they'll have to worry about being murdered too. I finished my milk tea and smiled at Lisa. It's fine, he will die. Even fate itself won't tolerate him. Lisa clasped her hands together in a mock prayer. I hope so. Sure enough, within 6 months, Ryan Carter was sentenced to immediate execution for his crime. Assaulting a fellow inmate, resulting in intentional bodily harm. According to prison law, if a prisoner commits another felony, serving a suspended death sentence, the execution is carried out immediately. Why did Ryan do it? Maybe he had finally reached his breaking point after endless torment, or maybe, just maybe, he wanted to kill again. Just like he had calmly suffocated his own mother, just like how in my past life he had murdered me. In both timelines, Ryan Carter was nothing but a rotten seed, but in this life, he would finally pay the price. At our final hot pot gathering of the year, Lisa and I received the news. Ryan Carter had been executed. It was said that he died horribly. He had refused lethal injection, opting for death by firing squad instead. But when the moment came, he tried to run, so they shot him down like a dog. His body was riddled with bullets. Then an interesting rumor spread. A week before his execution, Ryan had made a final request. He wanted to see Lily Jensen. He claimed he wanted to give her his family's old apartment. Whether she wanted to live in it or sell it was up to her. Ryan Carter had hoped to give Lily Jensen some material compensation, maybe as a way to make up for not giving her the life she wanted 2 years ago. Such a performative narcissist, even at death's door, he just had to play the tragic love hero. But she rejected his visitation request without hesitation. In fact, behind closed doors, she even cursed his name, calling him bad luck. She had already secured her place in a high society training program, preparing to conquer a celebrity. Why would she ever lower herself to accept a murderer's property? Lisa and I exchanged a knowing look and raised our milk teas in celebration. We made a toast. Lisa went first. To a bright future and to me for surviving another year through sheer effort. I followed. To the gods of fate, thank you for giving me a second chance at life. To myself, thank you for staying alive and protecting my health. To my parents, may they enjoy long happy lives and retire early so they can travel the world. Ryan Carter's execution didn't make headlines. There was no sympathy, no last-minute outcry for justice. The world simply moved on. Lisa and I heard about it while enjoying hot pot, sipping on our favorite milk teas. The news came casually, almost as if it were just another piece of gossip. HEK dead, Lisa murmured, placing her cup down. It's really over. I stirred my broth absent-mindedly, watching the steam rise. Yeah, I replied. Neither of us felt the need to cheer. It wasn't because we pitied him. No, Ryan Carter deserved every ounce of suffering he endured. It was just that in the end, he wasn't even worth our celebration. This was justice. This was fate. His death was inevitable. A week later, my parents received a letter. It was from Ryan's lawyer, informing us that before his execution, Ryan had transferred the deed to his family's old apartment to me, not Lily me. Lisa nearly choked on her drink when she heard. What the hell? That psycho still thinks about you after death. I laughed. No, it's not about me. Ryan wasn't capable of genuine remorse. I truly regretted anything he would have shown while he was still alive. No, this was his last pathetic attempt to burden me. A sick joke hoping that even after death he could still take up space in my mind. Unfortunately for him, I wasn't the girl from my past life anymore. I had already one. Without hesitation, I called the lawyer and had the property sold the very next day. The proceeds were donated, every cent, to the very firefighters who had once fought to save my family's restaurant. Ryan Carter had spent his whole life hating my family, resenting our wealth while shamelessly benefiting from it. In the end, his last remaining asset, the only thing he had left to give, went right back to where it all began, back to the very people his father once stood beside. Poetic, isn't it? As the months passed, the memory of Ryan Carter faded. Lisa and I graduated from college and stepped into a future where his existence was nothing but a distant, unpleasant dream. My parents retired early, just as I had hoped, spending their days traveling the world and sending me photos from every new place they visited. And me? I lived. For the first time in both lifetimes, I truly lived. I never wasted another second dimming my own brilliance for the sake of some undeserving man. I never sacrificed my future for someone who didn't deserve my kindness. I never let guilt or obligation dictate my choices. Instead, I chased after my dreams with the full force of my own ambition. Without restraint, without regret. And that, not revenge, not justice, not even fate, was my true victory.